So, looking at decibels. So, the definition of intensity is the rate at which energy passes through a given area. So, the equation for that would be power, which is the rate at which energy is transferred over area. So, P over A. The unit for that, so power is in watts and area is in meters per or meters squared. The equation for intensity from a point source is power over 4 pi r squared. What this is the surface area of a sphere. And that's because sound waves go out. You know how if you drop a rock in a pond, it goes out in a circle. So a source, a sound goes out in the sphere. So we're looking at the spherical surface area. So what happens to the total intensity if you have more than one source of sound? You would just add up all the sources, add up all the intensities of the various sources. It's pretty straightforward. We like intensity in physics. It's just you're just adding it. So if each source has the same intensity, you would just simply multiply the number of sources by the intensity of one individual to find the total intensity. So here's where it gets a little crazy. What happens to the sound intensity if you hear noise that is twice as loud as an original? You know, like you hear noise like and then you hear like whoa, that's twice as loud. Turns out that the intensity didn't double, but it actually increased by a factor of 10. So you're multiplying the intensity by 10. So 10 times the intensity when you hear something that is twice as loud. So what this shows us is human perception of hearing is not a linear scale with regard to intensity. So it gets a little crazy. So because of that, this screams we need to deal with logarithms. So that is the equation for decibels, sound intensity. The unit for that, it has no units, but we label it as decibels. So like a little dB is the unit that we use for decibels, even though it's just a ratio. And what is the I sub 0? And this is the threshold of hearing, and that has a value of 1 times 10 to the negative 12th. This is the threshold. That's the threshold of hearing. This is the quietest volume that humans can perceive. Okay? So what happens to the decibels if you hear a noise that is twice as loud as an original noise? So this is, we're having the same question again, but this is asking in terms of what happens to the decibels. So you would actually add 10 rather than multiply by 10. You add 10 to the decibel reading of the first sound. So you're like, oh, that's like, like, whoa, that's twice as loud. The decibel reading measurement is actually added to 10 from the original. So there you go.